Welcome, listeners, to another intriguing episode of Restless Killers and Mysteries with Roger Heilig. I'm your host, Roger Heilig, and today we've got a really gripping story lined up for you. But before we dive into today's tragic tale, I want to give a big shout out to our sponsor, Beyond the Grassy Knoll, How JFK's Death Changed American Society Forever by A.M. Wolfe. It's a fascinating read which you can find on Amazon and Audible. If you think you know everything about JFK's assassination, think again. This book opens up a whole new perspective on how that singular event rippled through American society. Now, back to today's episode. We're turning our attention to one of Hollywood's most tragic stories, the murder of Rebecca Schaeffer. For those who might not be familiar, Rebecca Schaeffer was a talented young actress who starred in the TV show My Sister Sam. She had a bright future ahead of her, but it was cruelly snatched away by an obsessed fan in 1989. Now, you might be wondering, why are we talking about this? Well, her tragic death led to groundbreaking changes in stalking laws across the United States. It's a sobering reminder of how laws sometimes have to catch up with the realities of our troubled world. So grab your favorite drink, settle in, and let's rewind to the late 80s. Picture a vibrant young actress with an infectious smile and a world of opportunity at her feet, until fate, or rather a dangerous obsession, intervened. The story of Rebecca Schaeffer is a mix of Hollywood dreams and nightmares, and unfortunately, it's a tale that had to be told to make sure others could be protected. Through today's episode, we'll look at her life, the chilling details of the fan who took it away, the day that forever changed Hollywood, and the legal transformations that followed. It's a story as haunting as it is crucial, and by the end of our journey, you'll understand just how significant it was in shaping the laws we have today to combat stalking and protect privacy. Alright, let's get started and pull back the curtain on the life and legacy of Rebecca Schaeffer. Let's set the scene and get to know Rebecca Schaeffer, a name that should ring a bell for any 80s TV enthusiast, particularly fans of the show My Sister Sam. Picture this, it's 1986 and on CBS, an audience is falling in love with Patty Russell, the charming, spirited younger sister to Pam Dauber's character, played by none other than our very own Rebecca Schaeffer. It's not just her on-screen charisma that makes her special, it's her real-life aspirations and sheer talent that had Hollywood buzzing. Rebecca Lucille Schaeffer was born on November 6, 1967, in Eugene, Oregon, and you could say she was practically destined for the limelight. Growing up in Portland, she initially dreamed of becoming a rabbi. Quite the deviation, isn't it? But the allure of the silver screen soon took hold. This dreamer had big ambitions. At the tender age of 16, Rebecca's career took its first notable leap when she signed with a modeling agency in New York. This serendipitous decision led to her first major break. Gracing the covers of magazines and landing commercial gigs, she swiftly found her place in the world of modeling. This, however, was just the stepping stone to her greater passion, acting. Hollywood, with all its glitter and drama, was calling her name. Enter My Sister Sam. The CBS sitcom was Rebecca's ticket to stardom, and boy, did she seize that opportunity. She played Patty Russell, a lovable yet mischievous teenager who moves in with her older sister in San Francisco. Rebecca's natural charm and wit made Patty an instant hit with audiences, and the show's first season soared in the rankings. She had that relatable aura that made everyone feel like they knew her, like she was America's kid sister. But My Sister Sam wasn't just a job for Rebecca, it was a gateway to broader horizons. Hollywood started to notice. Critics and fans weren't the only ones charmed by her. Big names in the industry began seeing potential for a budding film career. Rebecca had an expansive vision for herself, roles that would challenge her and stories that would inspire many. It wasn't long before she landed film roles. One particular highlight was her part in the 1989 black comedy scenes from The Class Struggle in Beverly Hills. The industry buzz was that she was poised to become the next big thing, and it's evident why. Rebecca wasn't just about the look. She had depth, a compelling screen presence, and a constant drive to refine her craft. But beyond the cameras and scripts, Rebecca was also known for her kindness and genuine nature. She remained grounded, effortlessly maintaining a balance between her rising stardom and her personal life. She was the type of friend who remembered birthdays and lent a sympathetic ear. In a city known for its fair share of superficial connections, Rebecca Schaeffer's sincerity shone brightly. It's essential to remember that Rebecca was more than just an actress and model. She was a young woman in the prime of her life, filled with dreams and aspirations. She talked about wanting to work with directors like Martin Scorsese and Steven Spielberg someday. She envisioned roles that would stretch her abilities, from comedy to serious dramas. Rebecca's story, so brilliant yet so tragically brief, offers a poignant glimpse into the hopes and potentials of a life stolen far too soon. In our next segment, we'll delve into the darker part of her tale, a tale that intertwines her promising journey with the sinister obsession of a disturbed fan. So stay with us as we explore the depths of this tragic narrative, honoring Rebecca's legacy while seeking understanding in the chaos that ended her life. Alright folks, let's dive into the murky waters of obsession and see how the life of Rebecca Schaeffer was tragically intertwined with a fan who couldn't let her go. So, who was Robert John Bardo? Imagine someone who's repeatedly failed to find a sense of purpose or connection in life, and you've got a bit of an understanding about him. Bardo was born on January 2, 1970, in Tucson, Arizona, into a large family. He was the youngest of 7 siblings, which sometimes translates to a lot of competition for attention, something Bardo reportedly struggled with. From an early age, Bardo grappled with mental health issues. He spent some time in and out of psychiatric institutions, illustrating the severity of his internal struggles. Yet, as with many obsessions, Rebecca became the one thing he could fixate on, a beacon, if you will, in his tumultuous life. His obsession didn't start with Rebecca Schaeffer, though. Before her, his target was Debbie Gibson, the teenage pop sensation. He even attempted to meet her, scanning TV Guide for shows she might attend. But Rebecca caught his eye when she landed her role on the TV series, My Sister Sam. To understand how he slid from harmless fandom into deadly fixation, we need to look at his escalating behavior. Bardo was not your run-of-the-mill fan. He was an ardent consumer of everything Rebecca related. We're talking about someone who collected magazines, recorded TV shows, and wrote numerous letters. His fervor only increased with time, spiraling into a dangerous preoccupation. At one point, he even hired a private investigator to find out where she lived. That's how fixated he was. Bardo's letters to Rebecca went from adoring and complimentary to intensely critical and aggressive over time. One letter, in particular, hammered on about a scene in which Rebecca appeared in bed with another actor in the film Scenes from the Class Struggle in Beverly Hills. For Bardo, this was a betrayal. On July 18, 1989, Bardo's obsession reached its tragic climax. Armed with a handgun, a weapon he'd managed to acquire despite his mental health history, he traveled to Los Angeles. On that fateful day, he took a bus to Rebecca's apartment in West Hollywood. Using the information provided by the private investigator, he managed to reach her doorstep. The first attempt saw her deny him, politely asking him to leave. But Bardo was nothing if not persistent. He returned an hour later, and when Rebecca opened the door again, Bardo pulled the trigger, shooting her point blank. Just like that, a bright star was extinguished, leaving the world and her loved ones devastated. In the aftermath, Bardo was quickly apprehended. He had essentially confessed to the crime before anyone even started looking for him. He was found pacing along a Tucson interstate, waving down cars, almost as if he were seeking a twisted sort of validation for his heinous act. Bardo's trial garnered massive media attention, shining a glaring light on the gaps and flaws in the system. His mental health issues were brought up, and the argument was made that somewhere along the line he had fallen through the cracks, allowing his delusions to fester unchecked. However, the focus remained on the undeniable fact that Rebecca had become a victim of a relentless and destructive obsession. Bardo was eventually convicted of murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. While justice was served, the episode left lingering, painful questions about how such a tragedy could happen in the first place. This tragic event was not just a personal catastrophe, but also a societal wake-up call, leading to significant changes in the legal framework around stalking. Rebecca Schaeffer's case forced a critical evaluation of how we view and handle obsessive behavior, especially in the digital age where personal information can be alarmingly accessible. In the next section, we'll delve into the legal aftermath of this tragedy, and how Rebecca's untimely death catalyzed substantial changes in stalking laws, forever altering how society seeks to protect its most vulnerable members. Stay tuned. On that fateful day, Bardo traveled from Tucson, Arizona to Los Angeles with a singular, deranged mission: to confront Rebecca Schaeffer. As the morning sun warmed Hollywood, Rebecca was in her apartment, preparing for a crucial audition for The Godfather. Around 10:15 a.m., Bardo arrived at her doorstep holding a letter and an autographed photo. When Rebecca opened the door, she was greeted by the stranger she didn't recognize. He attempted to engage her in conversation, presenting himself as just another fan seeking an autograph. Rebecca, always gracious and kind-hearted, politely told him to leave. She had no idea he was carrying a gun in his back pocket. You would think a rejection would send an obsessed fan packing, even if only for a day. But Bardo's mind was far from normal parameters. He didn't see her dismissal as a deterrent. Rather, it was a trigger. He went across the street to a diner, fueled his determination with a quick meal, and readied himself mentally for what he would do next. An hour later, he knocked on her door again. When Rebecca opened the door for the second time, she must have been surprised, maybe even irritated. Before she could react, Bardo pulled out his handgun and shot her point blank in the chest. The bullet punctured her heart, and with that singular, heartless act, Rebecca Schaeffer's life was cruelly snuffed out at age 21. The aftermath of the tragedy saw an outpouring of grief from fans, friends, and the entertainment industry at large. The horror of the event and Rebecca's tragic end rippled through Hollywood. Colleagues who once worked with her expressed their shock. The very streets of LA felt heavier, as though weighed down by the collective sorrow and solemn reflection of what had just happened. News of her murder was everywhere. It became a grim headline around the globe, sparking conversations about celebrity safety, privacy rights, and the perils of fan obsession. Vigils were held, and tributes poured in celebrating the short but impactful life of Rebecca Schaeffer, a young actress taken too soon, whose potential was snuffed out by senseless violence. As investigations proceeded, details about Bardo's troubling past and obsessive patterns came to light. Those horrifying facts spurred immediate outrage and raised serious questions. How could someone so obviously troubled have easy access to not only personal information but also lethal weapons? Why was it so simple for the mentally unstable to find and hurt public figures? The public outcry demanded change, and not just in the superficial sense. Rebecca's senseless death was a clarion call, urging the need for stricter laws around stalking, better security for public figures, and an overhaul of how personal information was managed and shared. Rebecca Schaeffer's tragic murder was much more than a celebrity news flash. It was a sobering wake-up call. But out of this profound sorrow and unimaginable loss came a movement, one that would lead to significant legal reforms and forever alter the approach to and understanding of personal safety, especially for those in the public eye. And while Rebecca's life was ended tragically, her story continues to serve as a powerful reminder of the stakes involved when obsession crosses dangerous lines. Now, let's delve into how the tragic murder of Rebecca Schaeffer led to significant changes in stalking laws. Before Rebecca's untimely death, stalking wasn't taken as seriously as it should have been. In fact, California, where Rebecca lived and worked, had almost no legal framework to address it. You see, pre-1990s, the law generally didn't do much to protect victims from someone who might be following, harassing, or invading their privacy, unless the harasser had already committed a crime like assault or trespassing. When Rebecca Schaeffer was killed by Robert John Bardo, it became painfully clear that this lack of legal protection was a fatal flaw. How could someone get so close to harm this young star right outside her own home without any red flags being thrown up? Well, it all came down to the deficiencies in the laws at the time. The impact of Rebecca's case reverberated rapidly, and by 1993, all 50 states had enacted anti-stalking laws. The federal government also chimed in with the Violence Against Women Act in 1994, which included provisions against stalking and made it a crime to cross state lines to stalk someone. This really was a watershed moment in acknowledging that non-physical forms of harassment could lead to incredibly dangerous outcomes. Part of these changes included enhancements to California's penal code, allowing restraining orders specifically designed for stalking cases. These restraining orders provided victims with a legal tool to keep their stalkers at a distance, ideally preventing any escalation. It also authorized law enforcement to act more decisively, stepping in before the stalker could cause harm. The need to draw a line between privacy and public information came into sharp focus because of Bardo's use of DMV records to locate Rebecca. In response, the Driver's Privacy Protection Act was passed in 1994. This law made it illegal for DMV employees to disclose private information from driver's records. So no longer could someone casually request an address just by knowing someone's name and birth date. But the legislative response didn't stop at just legal constraints. It also spurred awareness and advocacy, changing the way society views stalking and obsessive behaviors. Advocacy groups formed, hotlines were established, and educational programs were launched in schools and workplaces to help people recognize the signs of stalking and understand the legal avenues available to protect themselves. Rebecca Schaeffer's murder forced both legal experts and the public to confront the very real dangers posed by obsessive fans and stalkers. Laws that might once have seemed reactionary or overly cautious gained widespread support and brought tangible changes in people's daily lives. It was a profound shift from a laissez-faire attitude to a proactive stance in ensuring safety and privacy. To sum it all up, Rebecca's tragic story underscored the critical need for laws that could preemptively shield individuals from harm. Her death brought about robust legal changes that transformed how seriously stalking is taken, not just in California, but across the entire United States. Her legacy includes these important reforms that help protect countless others from becoming victims of similar fates. Stay with us, because in the next section, we're going to delve into the lasting impact Rebecca's case had on society. How did these new measures reshape the public's understanding of privacy? And what kind of ongoing efforts ensure that her legacy continues to protect future generations? Don't go anywhere. Rebecca's tragic death cast a long shadow, one that has continued to shape the way we think about privacy, celebrity safety, and the legal protections for individuals. But beyond the legal reforms and heightened awareness, Rebecca's legacy lives on in numerous ways, making her story one of change and reflection. In the immediate aftermath of her murder, the shocking nature of the crime ignited a public outcry that eventually led to significant legal reforms. California responded swiftly, becoming the first state to enact anti-stalking laws. The new legislation defined stalking as repeated, unwanted pursuit and harassment of an individual, combining it with credible threats of violence. This wasn't just a law, it was a societal acknowledgement that Rebecca's life and death mattered. Other states followed suit, and soon, federal stalking laws were also put into place, drawing a line in the sand against those with obsessive fixations. These laws have been a substantive step forward, but the battle is far from over. Many advocacy groups continue to work tirelessly, pushing for more robust protections and better enforcement. Organizations like the National Center for Victims of Crime and the Stalking Resource Center offer resources and support to individuals who find themselves the target of unwanted attention, often drawing upon the precedent set by Rebecca's case to underline the importance of vigilance and comprehensive legislation. Beyond the realm of law, Rebecca's murder underscored a crucial aspect of modern life: how fame can be a double-edged sword. The age of social media has only magnified this, making it easier for fans to access details about their idols' lives, but also making it easier for those with harmful intentions to gather information. We've seen a renewed call for better protection measures, not just for celebrities but for anyone whose public presence puts them at risk. It's no longer just about actors and singers. Today, influencers, journalists, and even politicians navigate complicated relationships with their followers, balancing engagement with the imperative of safety. In Hollywood and other hubs of fame, there's been a notable shift in protocol. Security measures for actors and celebrities have become more stringent. Security teams are a common part of celebrity life now, more so than ever before. The entertainment industry periodically examines its own role in balancing public access and personal privacy, often citing Rebecca's case as a cautionary tale in the importance of keeping certain boundaries. Rebecca also left a quieter but profound legacy of kindness and ambition that those who knew her strive to keep alive. Friends and family often speak about her genuine warmth, intelligence, and the promise she had. In her memory, scholarships and charitable initiatives have been set up to support young actors and aspiring performers, ensuring her spirit lives on through the opportunities provided to others. Additionally, every mention of Rebecca Schaeffer in public media serves as a sobering reminder of the fine line between admiration and obsession. Documentaries, articles, and podcasts, much like this one, continue to tell her story, amplifying the voice she was silenced from using. Educational programs now incorporate discussions on stalking, ensuring that the next generation is better informed and prepared to handle such challenges. Ultimately, Rebecca's legacy is a tapestry woven into the cultural and legal fabric of our society. She is remembered not only for her time on My Sister Sam, but for the real, systemic change her death catalyzed. Each step towards better legal protections, each media story examining the dangers of obsession, every young actor given a chance in her name, these are the threads that make up her enduring legacy. So, as we reflect on Rebecca's story, it's crucial to remember her vibrant life, tragically cut short, and the powerful wave of change it summoned. Here's to hoping the burgeoning awareness continues to grow, fostering an environment where no one, famous or not, has to live in fear of someone else's obsession. Through remembrance and continued vigilance, Rebecca Schaeffer's legacy will always serve as a beacon pushing towards a safer society for all. Well folks, we've covered quite a journey today, haven't we? From the bright beginnings of Rebecca Schaeffer's promising career to the dark and tragic day that took her life much too soon. We explored the unsettling story of Robert John Bardo, the obsessive fan whose dangerous fixation led to such a heartbreaking outcome. And we didn't stop there. We delved into the nitty-gritty of how Rebecca's death was the catalyst for significant changes in stalking laws, changes that have undoubtedly offered greater protection to countless individuals. Rebecca's legacy stretches beyond her talent and charm on the screen. Her story invoked meaningful legal reforms and continues to resonate within the conversations about privacy and celebrity safety, demonstrating how one person's tragedy can affect real, positive change. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Restless Killers and Mysteries with Roger Heilig. If you enjoyed today's deep dive into the Rebecca Schaeffer case, I think you'll be fascinated by our next episode, where we crack open the chilling tale of the Zodiac Killer. Why did this elusive figure remain at large for so long? What are the theories, the secrets, and the latest developments? You won't want to miss it. Before we wrap up, a big shout out to our sponsor, Beyond the Grassy Knoll: How JFK's Death Changed American Society Forever by A.M. Wolfe. It's available on Amazon and Audible, and trust me, it's a must-read for anyone intrigued by the ripple effects of historic events. Thanks again for lending me your ears. Stay curious, stay safe, and remember, sometimes the truth really is stranger than fiction. Until next time, this is Roger Heilig signing off.